Sets. I've got my 2 sets of stiles cut from my doors, and I'm coming back here to my, again, we're doing a double door with no center stile. I've completed the stile sections, and now we're going to do the rail. Now the rail wants us to know how big the opening is from right to left, and we put that down when we were over at our cabinet. Now because there's no center stile, we're going to take this number and divide it by 2. So 24 divided by 2 should be 12. Okay, 12 inches. Now we're going to take a set of stiles and put them together so that the joint is in the middle. And we're going to take a measurement across there and get a measurement for X. And that's going to go over here in this blank. So we're going to figure that out. I'm going to take these, I'm going to put one set face down, and I'm going to have the joint towards the middle. So they're set up like this. And then I'm going to measure across so I get a full outside measurement to measurement so I get that size. Now, hopefully we're at 5 inches, but we could be off a little bit. And we're right at 5 on ours, but we always want to double check. Don't ever assume that that it was made right. You always want to confirm your measurements. Measure twice, cut once kind of mentality. So that was 5 inches. So I'm going to transfer that right here to 5. So then I'm going to take and move to the next line, and it says number 4 minus number 5. So go up to line 4 is 12 minus line 5, which is 5. So 12 minus 5 is going to be 7. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to put 7 in this answer. So once we've got 7 transferred, then we just work across and it says 7. Now we're going to add 1 inch and 5/8, and then the arrow tells us to drop that. This arrow here tells us to drop that number down there. So 7 plus 1 inch and 5/8 is 8 and 5/8. So I'm going to drop that number here, 8 and 5/8. So our rails need to be 2 9/16 by 8 5/8. That's how we're going to determine the length. We're going to follow this process through here. Now we always want to cut the end grain first. So on the rail ends, we're going to have to cut the end first before we run them through the machine that I just showed you. So let's go look at the other shaper we need to take a look at and cut these to size. So now we got our 4 rails all cut to size. We're going to take them over to the shaper and we're going to edge the end grain first. Right. All right, so I've got our other shaper set up. Again, the shaper is the bottom part, and this one has a jig on top called a cope crafter. The cope crafter allows us to hold on to our workpiece and hold on to it so the ends can be run. If we were not using the cope crafter and we tried to run this through here, it would suck into the blade because there's no surface on there. There's nothing keeping it in place. The cope crafter follows the miter track, and when we clamp our workpiece down, there will actually be some air that comes out the bottom and helps us to kind of float so it's not so much friction of rubbing metal on metal there. It'll be a little bit smoother to run through. So I'm going to face my pieces. I'm going to put the good side down. Good side down is going to allow me to edge these, and so I have the good side, the piece I want out when we're done. If you want, you know, some figures in there or knots, whatever you're looking or going for on your piece, then you would align those accordingly. So we're going to start with one of our pieces. We're going to run one at a time. I'm going to push this in till it goes all the way up to the fence. Now I can see in here just a little bit, and my workpiece is up tight against this fence. There's another piece of wood in here, this support piece. And what this support piece does is prevent there from blowing out the backside as much when it comes through the machine. So it's a backer piece to support the back edge so it doesn't blow out so much. Our support piece here should be lower than our good piece. We want this clamp, when it clamps down, to put pressure on our good piece. So if these backer pieces or support pieces are higher than our workpiece, then we'll have to shim this out a little bit so it clamps our workpiece. Okay, if it's not clamped, it's going to suck into the machine on you. And it doesn't have to be much of an offset there, just a little tiny bit, because if it's too great, then there's wood exposed that's going to blow out on the backside when we're done. So I'm going to line up my workpiece, okay, get it pushed all the way forward to the fence here, to this metal fence all the way forward. And I like to line the side of this cope crafter up to the side of this fence back here, right? So these two planes are the same plane. This gives me the same starting point each time so that my boards get the exact same cut every time. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to line up my side with that. I'm going to clamp this down. It's going to clamp it into place. Make sure you keep your fingers clear of the clamp. You don't want it to clamp your finger. And then I'm going to turn the machine on and run this through. Or you can clamp it down after you turn the machine on. It doesn't matter. So maybe you heard a little bit of rattling. That rattling is just this plate for the movement of it moving up and down. It's just that plate kind of sitting on there moving around. So nothing to be alarmed of with that kind of jiggling or rattling noise you heard. So I just cut one end, and again, this machine is also set to take off a 1/16 of an inch. So this board is now a 1/16 of an inch shorter than it was originally, and we've got it cut to size. And that backer board did a pretty good job. There's a little tiny bit of tear out on that piece, and we can put that tear out towards the fence on our next cut to help prevent, or to help eliminate that when we're done. So now I want to make sure I keep this radius part down, right? So we have one that's got a flat profile on top and one that's got a radius profile. This radius profile is our good side, and our good side goes down. Now I wouldn't recommend you taking this out and looking at it between each one. I would recommend you running it through, unclamping it, pulling your jig back, turning your piece around so you don't accidentally orientate it the wrong way. And again, every time you pull it back, you're trying to get to that same starting point so it's the same cut on each end. So we're going to go through and cut all of the rest of our pieces and show you that process. All right, once we're done running the ends of both pieces, what we're going to do now is we're going to slide this shaper out of the way. We're done with the one that cuts the ends, and we're going to go back to the one we originally started on, and we're going to cut a groove in the side so that panel can fit in there. And as we do that, we're going to look for any defects in the wood. For example, here's one that has a little bit more chips on it. I would put that towards the fence, so that as that machine is taking off a 1/16 of an inch, it's going to cut away most of that. So you're just looking for any bad spots, so when you put it in the machine, you can get it in correctly. This one's got some tear out as well. I'll put that against the fence. So now I'm going to run this through the shaper. I'm going to use this board that's kind of L-shaped here. It's got a little notch on there. And because this is small, I would say shorter than 12 inches, I'm going to use this board to help keep it tight against the fence and to keep it moving forward, because the distance between those feed rollers can be a little bit far apart, or it could get stuck in there since it's a little bit shorter. So this board is going to help me feed that through there. Now, when I load this up, it's very important that I make sure I have the right side down, and the good side should be down. And if you remember from earlier, this radius part is the good side down. This flat part here is going to be the back side when we're done. So good side's going to go down. We're going to put any bad edges, like this chip here, against the fence to help cut that off so we have a better looking piece when we're done. going to turn the dust system back on. It's going to get kind of loud in here. Don't forget that the power feeder is a separate machine. You have to turn that on and off separately from the shaper itself. All right, I've got my 4 rails cut. I'm now going to assemble this as a dry fit and make sure that we're the right size when we're done. So I'm just going to slide these together. I'm not using any glue at this point. This is just a dry fit to make sure everything is going to be the correct size.